Okay, and we're on. So, hello everyone. Welcome to another Fabric Power BI Portugal meetup. My name is Pedro Reis. I will be your host today. And today here we have a special guest. We have Gregor. Hi, Gregor. How are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me.
And really nice to have you. We're really excited to do. It's our meetup number 64 since the beginning of our community. So a long way. And we are in 2024, a lot of different things coming out, Fabric coming out. We even changed the name of our user group from Power BI Portugal to Fabric Power BI Portugal, because there is a lot of more stuff coming in. And everyone joining the meeting. So today we'll host it in English. And also, as many of you have seen, this was we recently made a poll, and we requested what were your favorite topics to have different sessions here. And the topic that Gregor submitted in our session eyes was one of the favorites, meaning the optimization of shared data sets in the Power BI service. And today, Gregor is going to share with us one thing that is very interesting and very relevant to us, which is Power BI by itself right now needs also the aid of external tools. There are different external tools, different use cases, and also data sets can also become big. Data sets can also have a lot of measures associated. So we'll see also what Greg can bring us, that maybe some tips and things that we can use in our day-to-day development in our projects. Before we start, just to share with everyone, we also have the upcoming meetup scheduled for the 6th of March. Also, to extend a little bit what we speak about regarding Power BI and Fabric, we are going to talk about Power BI and Fabric extensions with Power Apps with John Vogue. So it's scheduled for the 6th of March. I'll put in the chat the link if you guys are interested to join. In the meanwhile, so Greg, welcome to our user group. It's really great to have you here. And so I will ask you to introduce yourself to the community. You are based in Switzerland, right, Gregor?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I'm originally from Austria, but have been living in Switzerland for a couple of years now. Also started my company there. We're basically doing Power BI development and consulting. And we have also built an external tool. And I'm just going to start sharing my screen so I can do my presentation. I'm going to do just a little bit at the beginning in PowerPoint. I know usually I don't even have a PowerPoint, but now I kind of thought, okay, maybe it's not a bad idea. Just so it will be really short, then we'll jump right into the technical things, which are probably more interesting. Yeah, so I want to talk about a new way to optimize shared semantic models or data sets as we know them in the Power BI service. And today I'm just going to talk a little bit about what are shared models, and then I'm going to show one way, and I think it's one of the easiest way to optimize a model using external tools. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I have been working with Power BI for a really long time, almost since when it came out. And we're a small team of developers. We're based in Switzerland, and we're mainly operating, or our clients are mainly in the German-speaking, in the DACH area, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And yeah, we have also built the Measure Killer. So it's also going to be about this tool, obviously, but not only about this one. So just
it's a killer name. It's a killer name too. Indeed.
Yeah. The whole name is actually another story. We've had some people say, you should change your name. It sounds too aggressive. Some people even said that in some bigger companies, the security people will flag it just because of its aggressive name. I always thought, well, I hope they don't judge the tool by its name only. But yeah, anyway, that's just how the name somehow came together. It was more like a joke at first, but now it has been developing into a really useful tool, and we also got some really nice feedback from the Power BI community.
Okay.
So what is a shared data set? I hope this is not too ugly. I'm trying to use the new icons from Power BI, and this is the new dataset icon, which I don't know exactly if it's really a dataset, but it's just how it looks. So imagine this is our golden dataset or our shared semantic model, however you want to call it. So we have all our tables, relationships, and measures in there. And then people build reports. Those are Power BI reports, but then we also have maybe paginated reports on top of this model. And that's they're doing a live connection to that model, right? So they're pulling whatever is in the model right into the report. And people could even build files locally on top of this model. So that's basically the whole golden data set or shared model approach. Not everything has to be valid all the time, but this is just some little diagram that shows what might be possible. It's just the whole point is that we have one model and multiple reports built on top of it, and then you don't have to build a model for every report, which a lot of times doesn't really make sense. But those models also come with some downsides. It has upsides, of course. We can reuse our data, but also the downside is that, especially what I have seen, that people maybe will not touch those models anymore. Once they're in production, it's really risky to change something, to remove something. We're scared. We don't want to break anything. We don't even know maybe who built something on top of a model. So this is kind of a problem. And I hope I can contribute a little bit with this session today to solving this. So what is this new way that I'm proposing? So it's first of all, it's about making the model smaller. So we want to make the model smaller. We want to make it better organized. And in the end, our reports and our measures and everything should be more performant, right? If we have a smaller model, everything should also run more quickly. So what do we need to do to achieve this, to make our model smaller without having any downsides? So we can identify everything that is currently unused. That means we're going to look at all the reports that are connected to the model. We're going to see what is used in those reports. And then we're going to cut out from the model whatever is not used anywhere. And Power BI doesn't give us that out of the box. Power BI doesn't tell us what you're using on which page or in which filter. You don't know what part of the data model is in use. You can just try to delete something and then see what's going to happen. But that's really risky and not a really good idea. So there are some external tools that can help us with that. And then the second thing is, after we know what is not needed, we're gonna have an almost automatic way to remove the unused columns and measures from that model. So we have two approaches. The first one, where we can download the dataset and all connected reports from the Power BI service. So we need everything locally. We need to download all the files locally to the machine. And then we can do everything in Power BI Desktop plus in the free version of Measure Killer. And that's what we're going to spend most of the time today on. We're going to see this approach where we can use only free tools. Everything here is done offline because we're just going to download everything to the computer, then change the dataset, and then we could, for example, re-upload it. The second approach is if we cannot download everything, and also maybe if we cannot find all the reports that are connected to the dataset, then we need the paid version of Measure Killer and we need Tabular Editor 3. And there we don't have to use Power BI Desktop at all. We can just run the analysis in those external tools and even do the optimization there. And we can do everything basically online without ever using Power BI Desktop or without having any files locally. Everything can stay in the service. If we have, I don't know, incremental refresh or something, that's basically possible as well. Okay, so that's basically the PowerPoint. So now let's take a look at what we have. I prepared something simple here. You can see this is called IMDb. It's from the movie database, International Movie Database. It's a big data set. It has almost 1 gigabyte. We have a couple of reports connected to that data set. We can take a look at one just to see what we're dealing with. So for example, here we can see the movie rating. So people give it a rating from 0 to 10, and we can see, I don't know, on average, people give a 6.2 for all the movies that are in this database. And actually, on average, it's 6.95. Yeah, I guess I misrepresented that. Here we can have some other information. We can see when the movie was released and how many movies are released. So we can see, for example, I don't know, that there were year 2000 afterwards, a ton of movies were released every year. And then this is kind of a drop because it's like a future, what is planned in the future. That's why there's only one movie planned for 2030, which is a long way out. Anyway, this is just one of the reports that is built on top of our shared model. So let's take a look and see what's going on. I have Power BI open, and this is my data set. So this is the big IMDb data set. You can see also I have some kind of table here. A lot of times people also have some pages in the data set because you want to check some sums if everything is correct, or if the measures are calculating correctly. But here we can have a couple of tables, right? We have some measures, not that much, but the data set, if I can see it here, it has 941 megabytes. So we have a lot of rows. It's a big model, and we want to clean this model up now. So what do I need to do? So the first approach, like I showed here, is we can download everything. So basically, I need to go ahead, download this. I'm going to download all the files. In this case, all the reports are in the same workspace. But if they're not in the same workspace, I have to go and find them and download everything to my computer. And what do I do then? I have everything already here, as you can see. Prepared this. We have those 4 reports, and we have the data set. And then I have a backup. I want to have this backup of the data set because I want to show also the size, because we're going to optimize this and then it's going to get smaller. So we then can compare it to what the size was before. So now I'm going to start Measure Killer, external tool. You can download it from the website, measurekiller.com, and just install it on your computer. So basically, Measure Killer has different modes, meaning you can analyze a single report, you can analyze this shared model where you have all the files locally, and then there are some other modes for the paid version. But we're going to start here with the free version, and this is the free version for the shared datasets. And when I click here, the first thing that pops up is select the dataset. So I have to have the dataset open when I do this, because we're gonna write changes directly. We're gonna write stuff later. When we remove things, we're gonna write it directly to this model. And that's why we have to have it open like other external tools work. So you can see it's already pre-selected here. I can click on next. And it's gonna ask me now if I also wanna add those pages. What does that mean? Well, imagine something from my data model is only used on this dataset page, then it would also put that into the analysis. If I don't care what is here in the dataset in those pages, then I can click on no. In my case, I say, okay, I just want to include this because maybe I want to keep this, because if I say no, this can break, right? Because it's not going to be part of the analysis, and we're going to remove something maybe that is only here. So that's basically the choice we have. And in this case, I don't want this to break, so I'm going to say yes, this should be part of the analysis. Now I need to tell the tool where my PBIX file is. And I have a little drop down, and it just pre-selected this file because it has the files I opened last, basically in this list. And I can click on next. So, okay, so now we have our data set here, all good. And now I need to add the reports. So it knows now that this is the data set, and now I need to add those thin files, those live connection reports, and I can just drag and drop them, into the window. And now it can do the analysis on top of the data model, and all the pages of all those reports that I added here. I can just click on run, and then we can get our output. So boom, that's it. Quite fast. Let's start with this summary here. By the way, is it too small? Should I make it a little bigger maybe, or is it okay?
I think it's okay. And if anyone needs to zoom in a little bit, please use the control and scroll if you want to zoom in a particular page. But I think it's okay, Gregor.
Great. Yeah, because this is just gonna expand this, but not the font size. So this summary, I think it's a good point to start. We can see immediately how much of our model size, and here you can see we have more than 2 gigabytes, because here we have the compressed size of our model in the PBIX. It's compressed, and here we see what is in the VertiPack. This is the uncompressed size. So you can see actually we have 2.5 gigabytes in total in our model, and we can see 49% is only used, and this means it's used in any of the reports, including this dataset page, and 51%, more than half, is completely unused. So this already tells me right away that I can save half of the size of my model approximately just by kicking out what I currently at least don't need.
Gregor, this means all the columns that are not used and their percentage of the size corresponding to the data model. That's it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what are we checking? We're checking if it's used in a measure, in a relationship, but also if it's used in a visual, if it's used in a filter, if it's used in conditional formatting, in Power Query. Basically, the whole point of the tool is that we know we will check everything so that if it says it's unused, like here, you can remove it without anything breaking down. That's the whole point of the tool. I don't want to say it's perfect because we're always finding some really specific case that maybe we haven't covered yet, but generally that's how it works. And here we can also see, for example, if we have local date tables, obviously I don't have those, but in some cases, maybe you got them from someone, and yeah, maybe you also want to kick them out. We can see how many unused measures, unused columns we have, also calculated columns, and some stuff about relationships. But what is more interesting, obviously, is this output here. We can see all the artifacts, and that means columns, calculated columns, or measures, even report level measures. Those are in those thin files, right? Those are in those reports here, and you build them on top of the data model. And I can also see them here. We don't really care about them. They're not part of the things that we're gonna remove because they're in the report. We don't really care about this, but we still see them here if they are used or not. Yeah. So basically, that's what we get. And then I can just see that this is already sorted by the size. So I can see that my most costly column here is a calculated column actually, and it's completely unused. And this is using 575 megabytes. That's a really big amount of my data model that is basically not used, just one column. And then we have some other columns. I can also expand this. We can see everywhere things are used. So for example, I can see that this column is used in the calculated column and in a relationship, and I can see all kinds of stuff here basically. So for the things that are used, I can basically expand them. And actually, I'm just realizing that you can see there's supposed to be this little collapse icon. But I have an old version. Actually, the version that we released last week, it has this fixed, but on my computer, I still have an older version for some reason. So that's why those icons are not visible in the dark mode. But if you download it, you'll see those. So basically, when I open those columns that are used somewhere, I can see where they are used, right? That's the whole point. For example, if I sort and I look at the things that are used the most, I can see this decade calculated column. We can see it's used 8 times. It's used 4 times in visuals. So I can see exactly in which report, on which page, in which visual it's used. And I can see that it's used in a visual level filter also. So there I can also see stuff. And I can see it's in a page level filter. So I can see basically everything that's going on. But what I really care most about is the unused stuff. So if I click, for example, only on unused, it filters out only those columns and measures. And I can just see those artifacts here. We also have a different view, the table view, where I can get a little better overview of the size of everything. So here I can see there's a people table like we have here. It has 1.6 gigabytes in total size. And if I open it up, I can see which columns are used, which are unused, and so on. Yeah. We also have this used by unused. This is a little weird at first. But let's take a look at this H column, and it will make sense, I think, once you see what's going on. This H column is yellow. It says used by unused. So basically, if a column or a measure is only used by something that is unused in itself, we will show it as yellow. Why? The red things, those are unused. We want to kick them out. We want to remove them. Once we do this, once I kick out all the red artifacts, this one will go from yellow to red, because if I kicked out this one, it will be completely unused because it's only used by something that I will remove. That's why now it's yellow. So it already tells you that if you kick everything out, later on, this will be kicked out as well. But it's not directly unused. That's why we introduced this yellow status, basically.
It's like a tier 1 dependency, right?
Exactly, something like this. So anyway, I'm just going to start removing stuff because we don't have all time in the world. So I can go to this kill measures and columns ribbon, and I can see here now all measures and calculated columns. So those we can remove by writing to the model directly. I think actually I can see on my phone that we have a question. The question is, does it mean that age is not used in the reports?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's not used. Yes, it's not used in the report, but it's used in this calculated column, right? So we're looking at what is used in the model and what is used in reports. Because if you remove something and it's used in a relationship, well, maybe you're in trouble. If you remove something, it's used in a visual, again, you're in trouble. So we want to look at both things. So this is used only in the model, actually, but other stuff is used, for example, in visuals, like we saw before, right?
The example would be, for instance, you create a calculated column, which is the age, and then you would create a measure, which is the average age. The average age is not used on any report. This means that the average age can be removed and the age column can also be removed, right?
Exactly. So in this case, actually, the surrogate key, we can look it up. Surrogate key is a calculated column here, doing some concat stuff, whatever. So this apparently is not used. It's red, right? I will see it here, but also actually it's also here in the normal output. This is not used anywhere. And the age column, actually I can even do a right click here and go to column details, and then I can get some metadata on this. And I can see, for example, that this is using, here we can see what this is doing. It's referencing the surrogate key. Here you can get all the metadata that the tool has internally. And in case I'm really interested in some more details, I can see everything here. But generally, we can just see that the age column, and let's see, age column, it's part of the people. Yeah, exactly. So basically, the surrogate key just has this column inside the expression. And once we will remove this calculated column, then the age column is completely unused, because currently the age column is only used in that calculated column. That's the whole point. That's why it's yellow. I know it's a little hard to understand at first, but if you give it a try, I'm sure you'll see what's going on. Okay, so let's clean up this model, right? Let's not waste any time. I have the choice of either killing selected stuff, meaning, I mean, this is just 4 things here, or just kill all. And I think let's just go for it. Let's kill all. No risk, no fun. Boom. So you can already see, oh, something happened. Like I had this search, it's gone, right? It's like executing a C# script. It just writes to the model directly. And since we removed those, remember the age was yellow. Those two were yellow before, and now it tells me, oh, I found new unused artifacts. So now those yellow ones, it says, oh, those two now are unused. But those are actually columns. That's why they're not showing up here. They actually will be in the column, in the Power Query columns, because that's what they are. But you can see here that now age is red. It was yellow before. So just because I did this one iteration, basically, it's also changing the output accordingly. So I removed the measures and calculated columns now. And if I want to see, you can also see this output has updated, right? Before we had 49% used and 51% unused. Now we already got, we have 64% used because we removed this calculated column and it had like 600 megabytes or something. So in the end, we want to go up to 100% used and we want to kick out all the unused stuff. So it's like a process, but we'll get there. Next thing, measures and calculated columns we did. Now we want to look at the real columns, the data columns, right? The ones that come in through Power Query. And if I go to this kill columns, Measure Killer is giving me an M code. So I get a new M code. Basically, I can go into Power Query now. And you can see I have those 4 tables, and I'm getting a new M code from Measure Killer. And why do I get this? Because that's how Measure Killer kicks out those columns. It adds a step to the Power Query M code. It adds a step, remove those columns. So let's see. The people table has most of the unused stuff. So I'm just going to show this for now. And maybe we don't have to do everything, but I'm just going to show this one table. But you need to do it for all of them, obviously. I have the choice of doing a remove columns or a remove other columns. I prefer to remove other columns, but in the end, it's going to be the same thing. So I copy this code, and now I go to people, the people table, and I just open up the advanced editor. I select everything and just paste this thing. You can see that it adds a step at the end, and I click on done. And that's how it kicks out those columns. It basically unselects the columns that we don't need. And the remove other columns also has this advantage that I have this little icon here on the right side that I can basically change. You see those 3 we kicked out. So afterwards, if I don't know, say, I want to have the primary name in there, whatever, I can afterwards select this. But if I don't want to do this, I can just say, okay, great. And I would do this for all the queries. And then I just hit close and apply. And I let it run through. Since it's a big data set, it will take some time. I'm not sure if we're going to wait, but it's just going to work like this. And then once I did this for all the queries, I can either run Measure Killer again, and I will see that we have 100% used now, and everything is good. And also our model will be smaller. So maybe, yeah, this will take some time.
Gregor, maybe in the meanwhile, for instance, on this case, if it's a native Power Query which brings the columns from a table, clearly you have this option to unselect the columns and don't bring it. Maybe there is a step also along the way in the regarding the folding, that maybe this step can be put in the beginning of the Power Query and in the end, clearly. My question would be, if it's a native query, a SQL native query that is sent, what does it happen? Are the M code step added in the end? Because I assume that it's not going to add a SQL code, right?
It adds an M code, yeah. That's how we built it, at least.
But so this means that you could then take a look at the M code that was added, you go to the SQL and you add the columns and you fix the problem, right?
Exactly, because you will see which columns it is anyway. It's just that also the folding, right? We could say, actually, we can parse everything here, and then we can already do the step here, and it's more efficient. Yes, but it's so much work just for this. I think it's better actually if people do this themselves, because it's already super complex to do it like this, basically. So this seems, it's finished. It was 13 million rows, right? That's why it took some time. We didn't optimize everything, right? Because I also am looking at the time, but now I'm just going to save this because we also want to see not only what Measure Killer is showing, but also in the file size, right? We want to see how much this thing went down in file size. And I'm just going to save this now. And it will take a few seconds to save. But then we can see that the size will already, no, let's save. What's going on? Oh, I hope I didn't mess it up now. Power BI will crash because of this. That's weird. No, doesn't want to save. Table view, save. Oh, here we go. Okay, now, boom, 567. Right? So this is the compressed size now. We didn't do all the tables because, yeah, I don't want to wait so long. But what we can do, of course, we can just run the tool now and we can see, oh, we already went up all the way to 85%. So now we can see that less stuff is unused, but still those 3 tables that I didn't do, they're left here. And I can still kick out 250 megabytes. But I'm not going to do everything now because, yeah, it's boring, I would say. So, but that's how we can get to 100% used. And of course, you have to decide if you really want to kick out the stuff that is not used. But a lot of times, if you have a couple of reports connected to the dataset and people have been using this, maybe you just kick it out. And if somebody needs those columns later, you can always add them in. But remember, we have this best practice to only load the columns that we need. And this is a fantastic best practice in theory, but actually it's almost impossible to achieve this because we never know what we will need in the future. And that's the whole, that's why I think it's really useful to have tools like this.
And Gregor, this means that for us to completely control what is used or what isn't used, we are basing all the analysis on the reports that we also downloaded linked to the data set. Meaning, if for some extent we allow the self-service BI, namely the construction of reports, we also need to track those. Or if we allow analyze in Excel feature, this means that we will not be able to sustain or to control that portion, right?
Yeah, the analyze in Excel is a problem, especially because we don't know what people are doing really on their computers. The stuff that is in the Power BI service, Measure Killer can analyze, but only in the paid version. Here, basically, it will search for all the connected reports automatically, but that's part of the paid version. If I want to use the free version, I have to find everything myself and just download it here and put it all in the tool, and it will do the analysis.
Yeah, clear. But clearly, this points to a direction. If you are going to do this at the organizational level, you can set up some communication. You can ask users, right, to also include the reports that they want to be analyzed and sustained, and then do the consolidated analysis with all together, right?
Yeah. Exactly. The only thing is analyzing Excel and paginated reports, you can only add in the paid version, actually. So that's not, the free version only has the Power BI reports. That's one downside, maybe. But probably if the analyzing Excel is not too complex, maybe you can just check it yourself, because usually it's pretty easy to figure out what is used there. Anyway, so that was the first part, the approach where we have everything on the computer. And now we're going to look at this in the Power BI service. So I'm just going to start the tool again. Let's see. I completely forgot to update this, really. My desktop, I didn't update to the latest version. This is an early build that I only had. Okay. So now I'm using the paid version of Measure Killer, and we're also going to use the paid version of Tabular Editor here. So first thing I need to do is, I actually already authenticated, but maybe let's re-authenticate just to do everything from the beginning. So once I open this up, I need to authenticate with my Microsoft account. And I click here. Okay, and now I get a list of all the data sets, actually all the workspaces that I have access to in my tenant. And we have this IMDb workspace here for the demo. And then I'm going to select this IMDb dataset. So this is just the same thing as we have here, right? Like this backup is the same size, whatever, all the same. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to select all the workspaces where it should search for to find the connected reports. Here, it can search for everything that I have access to, or if I use the admin mode, this is the another mode of the measure killer. If you're a tenant admin, you can actually use admin or scanner API calls to really find everything in the tenant. But if you're a normal user, you need to make sure you have access to the relevant workspaces. Only then it can find reports there. I'm going to select all of the workspaces, even though it's not such a good idea, because it will take some time. It just takes a few seconds, actually, but still. Let's see. Okay. Because it has to search all the workspaces, it takes a few seconds. And now we can see, so that's actually a report that I didn't download because we only have those 4 reports. And this is plus the data set. So those 4 plus the data set is what we had in the offline version. But there's also a report in a pro workspace, actually. And I think just for now, I'm going to take this out because we want to have everything the same, just like before. And here, this is what you alluded to, Pedro. Here, I can also add local files. So it will find all the files that are already connected, and it will actually find the Power BI reports, but also paginated reports. But then I can drag and drop local files here. So I can add Analyze in Excel, paginated reports, Power BI, PBIP, whatever. I can drag and drop it in here in case I have something on my machine or somebody else's machine to be part of the analysis. Then I click on Run. When I do that, it's doing an XMLA connection to the dataset. So that's why I need to authenticate for the XMLA. And then it's getting it always only analyzes the metadata. So from the reports, it gets the metadata and also from the dataset. And you can see everything went well. There are no errors. For some reports like app or I don't know, capacity metric, sometimes we could also have problems getting the metadata for those reports, but most of the time it works just fine. Now I click on cancel, and we can see now everything is the same, just like before, right? We have the same 49% used, 51% unused. The age is yellow, like everything all over again. But now we're in the Power BI service, right? I should have closed it. I don't need Power BI desktop anymore. I just need this tool. And like I said, I need tabular editor. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same thing as before. And here it's going to do a write. It's going to write to the XMLA endpoint. So it's going to write directly to the model in the service and remove those columns and calculated columns and measures. So let's do this now. Kill all. And here's just going to give me a warning. Hey, do you really want to do this? You cannot download your PBIX anymore. Yeah, I know. Okay, fine. And now it's basically removing those by writing directly to the model. And we can also, actually, I should have opened it before, but yeah, now it's too late. It's already gone. I could also check it here if it's really working, but it should. And we have the same thing as before. It found that now age and also this types is unused. Okay. And also, just like before, I can already see that by removing the calculated columns, especially, we saved a lot of space already. Now the kill columns, how do we do that? And that was actually, I think, where we have some really something new, completely new, because I get this M code, but what do I do with it, right? How do I put this into the model? I don't want to maybe redeploy it. Let's just keep everything in the service. And that's where another external tool comes into play. I'm going to do the remove columns again on the people table. Actually, I'm going to do the remove columns in this case, because we want to double check if everything is working correctly. You can see it's taking out this age, death year, and primary name from the people table, right? So those are still in here, but now I'm going to copy this M code, just like before, but I don't have Power BI Desktop open. I don't have Power Query here. Everything is in the service. So I have here Tabular Editor open on top of my dataset. And this is the paid version of Tabular Editor, actually. So now I'm going to open up here the people table. And I can see here this partition. And here I have the M code. So I can do the same thing that I did in Power BI Desktop here in the service. And I can just edit this M code here. So I'm just going to paste this in for all the tables now. This is pretty quick. Title principles, copy, title principles, open the partition, copy the M code, and you can see it just keeps everything and just adds the step at the end. Titles. Oh, here we don't have anything actually. Okay. So basically, it's telling me here that we have nothing to remove, so there's no M code to show. And then we have the basic info. So I can also do it here. Basic info. Let's see. Here we go. Copy, paste. So I did this now. And now what I need to do is I need to update the table schema. And now it's basically applying this M code to the whole metadata of the model. I hope this works actually. Let's see. Oh yeah, here we go. Here we have a nice summary of all the columns that it's gonna remove, right? This is cool. Also, I can just double check everything here. Click on OK. And now I can save this model. I can now save it to the dataset in the service by clicking here. Boom. Let's see. Okay, okay, yes, I will. Okay, fine. Boom. And now we can double check then if those columns are actually gone. So I'm just gonna, so we had age, right, death here, and primary name. Just gonna refresh. Boom, it's gone. Great. So that's how I can optimize the model without, yeah, just using external tools. And then I can also do a refresh if I want. But of course, I can also double check that all the reports are still working, right? That's maybe the most important thing that everybody would do. But that's basically the second approach. So like I said, you need some paid external tools, but still, this is pretty advanced stuff, right? But it's possible. It's really amazing that we can even do that, I think. And then, yeah, it's maybe not a surprise that maybe it's not everything is free to use. So I still have Measure Killer open here. What I can do now is I just run again. So now I can just run again on the model and see if everything is working, right? Let's see if this works. It's getting all the metadata again for all the reports. Boom, 92% used, 8% unused. Oh, actually something went wrong. Ah, okay. So this titles actually was my fault. The titles table, everything is unused. That's why I was a little too fast here. I think I clicked here and it says all artifacts are, actually everything is unused here. So I need to delete the whole table. And I didn't do that. So I need to go back to table editor now and just take out the whole thing. Because I could actually paste in this M code, but the M code would just really remove all the columns. And that's kind of weird. So that's why actually we have this warning here. And I didn't even read it. So make sure to read this stuff. I was a little too fast here. So I'm going to remove the whole titles table because you can see everything is unused. So I can just remove this thing here directly. Where is it? To open it up. Oh, here we go. Delete. Bam. And now I'm gonna save the model, and that should be fine. Yeah. Then we can refresh, and then we should have that 100%. So I just forgot this one table, and you can see that's exactly the 107 megabytes. And here we can also see that, oh, something is still okay. So there are still some measures in here that are unused. What is going on here? It doesn't show it to me here. Why? Those are report level measures. So report level measures, they only exist in the reports, not in the model. And we want to optimize the model. So we don't care about those measures. So they will still show up as unused. But for us, it's not really relevant because whatever measures are built on top of the model, it's maybe at least in this case, we're not really interested in this. So now since I removed this table, I can run again and everything should work, I hope. And we should get to 100% used. And then we're basically done. Here we go. 100% used, 1.2 gigabytes. So that's really, we cut our model size down by 50%. And it is quite easy to do that, right? Because, yeah, you just follow whole script basically, and anybody could do this actually. It's easier to do it locally, obviously, and just paste the M code in Power Query, but online it also works, and I think that's really cool that we can even do this. And you can see only those report level measures are left. I can also see that the columns now that are used, they're all part of the dataset, obviously, but also then we have those report level measures, and the report level measures, they're part of the reports. We can see this here. Runtime analysis is a report, right? This is it. It's not the dataset. So I can even here right click and I see the details, and I can see what's going on in those measures. Actually, I should also see, here we go. This, you can see the DAX expression. Yeah, I can see max, whatever, it's doing something. Yeah, basically, I can check what's going on with those. And even for the report level measures that are used, I can see where they are used. And obviously, those report level measures can only be used in that report, right? Because they only exist in that report itself. So you can only use it there. They're not part of the dataset. Everything that is part of the dataset, we can use in all reports that are connected to it. But if somebody builds something inside a report on top of the model, you can only use it there. That's the whole point. Yeah. Okay, we have some questions.
Yeah, question from Rui. What if Excel is used to connect to a shared semantic model that turns things into a little more complicated?
Yeah, I mean, we already mentioned this a little bit. Imagine somebody is doing analyzing Excel on top of this thing, right? How do I even know? I would only know probably if I pulled some logs and see some MDX queries on top of the data set. So I will never find this here because probably the analyzing Excel file is on somebody's computer locally. So it's not in the Power BI service. So that's why you can add them here. You can drag and drop and analyze an Excel file right here, but you need to find the people who are doing this. So probably the finance or controlling, the Excel crazy people, they will do this. But for that, you could query the logs and do that yourself. The tool is not doing that automatically because we would have to query all the logs and then what time period do we check? Do we check the last 7 days? Do we check the last year? It's very, very complicated. So basically that's up to you who is doing the analysis to see if you have Excel users who are doing queries on top of this data set. And if they do, you can say, hey, send me the file. You just drag and drop it in here. And then this will be part of the analysis and you will not break their analyzing Excel report.
Yeah, and so Gregor, meaning that in this paid version, first of all, you can already track all the lineage from the semantic models that you are tracking. You don't need to drag and drop because everything will already, as long as you have the permissions, will already be populated, and you even have the option to drag further custom-made reports or Excel files on top of this for the analysis.
Exactly. Or even local Power BI files. If you have something under development, it's not in the service yet, you can say, oh, in the future, the dataset should also work with this report, and we're going to upload it tomorrow. You can just put it in there as well.
And in the paid version, meaning that right now we can run this directly in the service without the direct copy. Just need that all the workspace that you have XMLA read-write permissions activated in the tenant on premium capacity, right?
Yeah, so we only need XMLA read to do the analysis, but we need write to kill stuff. So to kill the measures and calculated columns, we need write, XMLA write, but we only need XMLA read to get this whole analysis. And also the model, the dataset has to be in a premium workspace. It has to, because we're doing XMLA and it's a premium feature.
Yeah, exactly. And we have another question from Venkat. Is there a way where we can calculate how much the dataset has improved by doing this activity? Is it possible to quantify the performance improved, like telling the clients by optimizing the dataset we improved X% or something like in Bishon? clearly you have already shown that we can see here the percentage. Maybe from your experience, how are you then communicating the improvements from this? What are you suggesting clients that are using this tool to present that?
You mean in terms of speed?
Yeah, which kind of analysis before and afterwards do you recommend some metrics to see and to communicate? Not only the size, but you have other suggestions also?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, first of all, you can see how many measures you had before and how many measures you have after. Removing measures doesn't help you so much, but at least it makes everything better organized, right? We want to kick out all those useless measures that are just making everything complicated and they're all over the data set. So that is already a benefit, and you will see this before, that you have, I don't know, 50 unused measure out of 100. And also before we saw how many percent of the model was unused. So that's also something you can communicate to your client. You say, hey, I mean, this what I showed was actually a good example. 50% is good. I have seen 80, 90% unused. We've had one client, they had a data set with 19 gigabytes and they cut it down to 4 gigabytes because it just grow. You know, those data sets, they grow every day through incremental refresh, or well, not incremental refresh, but if you do a full load every day, data gets more and more. People will add new tables, add complexity. Everything is growing, but let's bring it down a little bit and cut stuff out, right? And that's what you can do here. And if you say, oh, you have 80%, you just run this and you see, oh, 80% unused. Holy moly, I can save a lot of size here, and also that will speed up everything, because I mean it has to keep this in memory, right? So if you have a small model, everything will run faster.
It makes perfect sense. Of course, we are basing also the analysis on the assumption that something that is used in a visual will actually be used, which might not be the true, but it's our best judgment. If you don't connect directly with the usage metrics or some kind of other analysis, right, it will be the best judgment that we can do with the actual usage statistics, right, on the report.
Yes. I mean, first of all, you can do that, and then you can see if there are any reports that are barely ever used, and you can already say, okay, I don't care about this report. I just take it out. Boom, it's gone. And then maybe you can cut out more. And also here, we can see some stuff is only used once. Okay, if something is only used once, I want to really see, maybe I can see if a table, not in our case, but sometimes you have a table where you only have one column used. So imagine those two columns are unused, only this one is used, and then I can check if maybe this column is only used in relationship. So basically I have the whole table and it's only used in a relationship, and the whole table otherwise is unused, means I can kick out probably the whole table, because the relationship by itself, if I don't use anything else, is useless, right? What's the point? So even if you have something only used once, you can check where it's used and if you really need it. For example, here we can see this primary title is only used on the dataset page, right? And maybe I don't really need this page. Somebody built it for testing. It could be a hidden page also. You can check. We have this what if analysis, and here you can see pages, and you can see all the pages in all the reports, and you can see where you could save something. For example, you can see this test page is hidden. So I can see what is only used there. And then maybe, oh, okay. In this case, actually, it's red. It means nothing is only used on that page. But it could be that something is only used on some test page that somebody has somewhere hidden in the report. And then you can even save that. So there's a lot more, but we cannot cover everything.
It's very interesting, that what if analysis. Really interesting.
Yeah.
We have a final question from Carlos. Similar to remove other columns, where if we need to go back, we can edit the columns to keep. In the case of the table that you removed fully, wouldn't be clever just to disable load on that table?
Yes, you're completely right. I should have done that. Actually, I just don't know how to do it here in table editor. Maybe it would be somewhere here. But yeah, that's definitely better than just deleting it. But I just did the quick and dirty. Cool.
All right. So if you guys, we still have just a few minutes. If you guys have any further question, in the meanwhile, Gregor, thanks a lot for the amazing presentation. I'm fully convinced to. I didn't try it out before, so it was really fantastic to have your presentation. I can already see how we can do some statistics for the entire team, for the entire set of reports, and to see what is actually the usage rate on different things. It's really interesting, and a lot of things already available in the free version, plus the flexibility to control directly on the Power BI service. Someone can be the CMK, the chief measure killer within the company. So it's really interesting. What about the pricing? How does it work for the pricing of the tool for the paid version?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, we just released this huge, we've worked on this for 4 months. So this was a huge version for us, and we already know there are some bugs in there, and we're going to release an update probably early next week. So if it's not perfect yet, because we did so many changes and so many new things, that there are some bugs in there, unfortunately. The pricing depends on the size of your company and tenant. Actually, we also have this whole tenant analysis where you run it on the whole tenant, basically, and find all kinds of stuff, also custom visuals. And you can see here, for example, the whole lineage, including the child models. And anyway, the paid version is, so it's like 550 euros for a smaller organization. That's premium per user only. So if you have premium per user, you can buy that, and that's just one license for the whole company. And if you have a premium capacity, then you need to get in touch with us, and it's more expensive, obviously, and it also includes support. The basic version doesn't include support. And this is, the enterprise is basically for bigger companies and also for consultancies. So we have some consultancies who are using that on their client projects, right? That's also really nice. You can sell it to your client, you can optimize their models, and basically get a license for that.
Yeah, and so with the free version, everyone can download and try it out to see if it makes sense or not, if there are actually potential gains on something on a small set. Test it like in a development workspace, right? Maybe link it with the new FPBIPT format and maybe revert it if you have any trouble, and doing the versioning on the pipeline. It's really interesting. Okay, guys. So any further question before we close? We have 1 minute. If not, from our Fabric Power BI Portugal community, we'd like to really thank you, Gregor, for coming to our user group and presenting this. I believe a lot of people that joined the session will surely be curious to try it out, and hope to see you soon with some new evolutions and making everyone's life a little bit easier, and the new role of the CMK within organizations.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Gregor. Thanks, everyone, and see you on the next meetup on the 6th of March. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.